Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Let's give the drummers a minute to do their thing. Black power. Put your hands together for the drummers, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. It's an honor to be here, standing in solidarity with my UNIA ACL brothers and sisters. Put your hands together for the original Marcus Garvey movement, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and African Communities League for making this thing happen, Atlanta Division. Brothers and sisters, I want to start by talking to our parents, and then I want to get into Marcus Garvey. I'm going to speak for about 45 minutes, and then I'm all yours the rest of the night. So if you want a photo, I'm here. You want a conversation, I'm here. If you need to get a copy of my book, they're right over here, and I will be signing them as well. Brothers and sisters, school is back in, or school will be back in soon. When do they go back to school in Atlanta? They're back now? All right. So let's talk about that. Number one, let's deal with autism. Autism is a real disability. Autism is not a made-up disability like the reading disability and ADHD. Those are frauds. But autism is real. And the issue with autism is, although it is real, the younger the child, the more difficult it is to determine conclusively that that baby has autism. So I'm asking black parents to slow down on getting your children evaluated so young for autism. I'm hearing about 2-year-olds diagnosed with autism. There's no way under heaven any psychologist on this planet can conclusively determine that a 2-year-old is autistic, or a 3-year-old, or a 4-year-old. You can have greater confidence in the diagnosis if they're 5. You can have even better confidence in the diagnosis if they're 7. But under 5 years old, an autism diagnosis, you are out of your mind. How do you know it's not a hearing problem? How do you know it's not a speech and language issue? How do you know it's not social anxiety? How do you know it's not selective mutism? How do you know it's not emotional trauma? How do you know it's not poor language acquisition because not enough language is being spoken in the home? We have to slow down on the autistic diagnoses. Now, yes, the preschools want to be evaluated early. Public school want to be evaluated early. Charter school want to be evaluated early. Why? They want the money. Let's be clear about something, Atlanta, Georgia. Special education is a business. Special education is a hustle. Special education is a racket of making money off black boys and girls. So yes, the school wants them tested at 3. The school wants them tested at 4. The school wants them tested at 5 so they can start the money train. It's not about helping your child. It's not about a quality service. It's not about an effective diagnosis. It's about getting the money train going. So it is your responsibility as a black mother, black father, foster parent, adoptive parent, big brother or sister. It is your responsibility to tell the school no. The most difficult job of mine is teaching black parents how to tell the schools no. That is your child. Learn how to just say no. We get around these white folks and these gatekeeping Negroes, and we turn into cowards on the plantation, and we're afraid to speak up for our children. They're too young to be getting tested for autism. Autism doesn't have a cure. Autism is not diabetes. Autism is not cancer. Autism is not kidney failure. With diabetes, the sooner you catch it, the greater the likelihood you can do something about it. Cancer, the sooner you catch it, the greater the likelihood you can do something about it. There is no cure for autism. So whether they get diagnosed at 2, 4, or 6, it's the same autism. Slow down. Also, if your child really is autistic, let's say your child really is autistic, you have to make sure Georgia public and charter schools isn't putting your autistic child in a life skill support classroom. Too many black boys who are autistic are ending up in the classes for the educably mentally retarded, known as intellectually disabled. Public schools are putting autistic kids in retarded classrooms because black parents are not showing up for IEP meetings. Black parents are not walking by the school to make sure their children are in a classroom that is appropriate for their developmental level. If you have an autistic child, you must be an organized parent, and you must be an active parent, and you must be an aggressive parent. As I always say, there's nothing worse for a black child than to have a teacher who don't care and a parent who can't care less. If you have a parent who cares and a teacher who doesn't, you will still be successful.
That's right.
If you have a teacher who cares and a parent who doesn't, you will still be successful.
That's right.
If your parent and your teacher cares, you must be successful.
Gosh,
and if neither your parent or your teacher cares, you're almost guaranteed to failure. Our children need adults who care about them. Make sure you go and look at that autistic classroom, because autism is a spectrum. Your child can be autistic and gifted. Your child can be autistic and intellectually disabled. Your child can be autistic with average intelligence. If your child is a high-functioning autistic kid, but they're sitting in a low-functioning autistic class, they're wasting their time. If your child is a low-functioning autistic kid and is sitting in a high-functioning autistic classroom, they're wasting their time. So please make sure that the autistic support class in your child's public or charter school is appropriate for their academic, intellectual, and developmental level. Now let me go to ADHD. It's a shame that after all these years of teaching and preaching about the dangers of ADHD and psychiatric medication, we still have thousands of black boys and girls throughout the state of Georgia, thousands even right here in Atlanta, who are diagnosed with ADHD and conduct disorder and oppositional defiant disorder. And so I have to ask you a question. What was the purpose of the ADHD diagnosis? Because America has no solution for ADHD except drugs. What's the solution for oppositional defiant disorder? Drugs. What's the solution for conduct disorder? Drugs. So why are you black parents getting your black sons evaluated for ADHD when the only thing the white man has for them is drugs, drugs, and more drugs? If you don't plan on drugging your child, why were they evaluated for ADHD? If you don't plan on medicating your child, why were they evaluated for conduct disorder? If you don't plan on doping up your babies, why were they evaluated for oppositional defiant disorder? Please stop with the ADHD evaluations. Nothing is wrong with your son.
Right.
The problem is public schools are ruled by women. Feminine energy runs the schoolhouse. White feminine energy, black feminine energy. And when the boy comes into a female-dominated institution, he's expected to behave and conduct himself like a little white girl. And when the black boy can't behave like a little white girl, we send him to the psychiatrist for a diagnosis and some medication.
Say it again!
Medication. What he needs is a black male teacher. What he needs is a school that's designed to deal with normal, I said normal, African black male healthy behavior.
Say it again!
What the problem is. They are demonizing masculinity. They are demonizing testosterone. They are demonizing the unapologetically African alpha male. Boys are not girls, and they should not be expected to behave like girls. When girls go through puberty, they get tired. When the female body is preparing to carry a child, girls get tired. They get sleepy. Boys don't get tired. Boys don't get sleepy. When they go through adolescence, they get active. They get hyper. They are filled with energy.
Right.
And these schools in Atlanta, Georgia are not adequately creating programs to deal with the natural energy levels of black boys. And then they prey on you, the ignorant black parent, to go along and do whatever the hell they want you to do, which is get a diagnosis and some crack. But what they're not telling you about the Ritalin, and what they're not telling you about the Concerta, and what they're not telling you about the Adderall, and what they're not telling you about the Cycler, is that these drugs cause very dangerous, irreversible side effects. It can mess with your son's natural development of healthy semen. A lot of our boys will be sterile by the time they're ready to have children because they were taking ADHD medications for 10 years. These drugs mess with the growth of the body. These drugs can cause organ failure, tic disorders, psychosis, nightmares, schizophrenia, and organ disruption, not only to include sudden death. So why are you giving your child medication so they can get a Eurocentric education? Why does a black boy need medication to get a Eurocentric education? Right. It doesn't make any sense at all. And you better be careful, black mothers, because if you consent to the medication and thereafter you decide to stop medicating, Child Protective Services of Georgia can come and confiscate your children. It's called medical neglect. They are stealing black children away from their parents because you are consenting to ADHD evaluations and you are consenting to medication. One of the ways they are taking our children from our homes is your failure to medicate. The best way to prevent that set of circumstances is to never ever consent to an ADHD evaluation. Because after all, ADHD really stands for Ain't No Daddy at Home Disorder, ADHD. That's the real problem. Our black boys need men. Our black boys need fathers. They need mentors. They need leaders. They need counselors. They don't need drugs. When did we get ADD? 1980. When did the CIA drop off crack in the black community? 1980. They started doping the children and doping the adults at the very same time. This is a war on black masculinity described as a psychiatric issue. Wake up and smell the coffee before it's too late. Now, I want to talk about this reading disability, so-called reading disability. Most of our children do not have reading disabilities. They don't have reading fluency disabilities, nor do they have reading comprehension disabilities. What they have are lazy disabilities. Your children are lazy, and because you don't want to motivate them to do their best, you settle for special education. Special education is not for lazy children. Special education is not for disinterested children. Special education is not for children who think they're going to be a rapper or an athlete so they don't have to apply themselves. Special education is for children who cannot learn because they have a disability and requires special instruction. That is not your son. Raheem was lazy. John was lazy. Mike was lazy. That's the issue in the black community. We are raising lazy black children who are not interested in academic excellence.
Break it down, doctor, break it down.
Better things to do. You are not on your child's back making them achieve the way their ancestors used to achieve. That's the problem that we have. That's the problem that we have. If I go to your house right now, Atlanta, how many of you got a dictionary in that house more than 300 pages? How many of you got a thesaurus in that house more than 300 pages? How many of you got a complete set of encyclopedia from A through Z in that home? Many of the homes I go in with our children, no bookshelf, no reading material, no dictionaries, no quiet space nowhere in the house, even if the child wanted to read. So we are breeding inmates for the mass incarceration system of Georgia. If your son is not an expert reader, then you're breeding an inmate. It's really just that simple.
Right.
And I'm trying to understand for the life of me why we got black homes in Georgia where black boys can't read on grade level, but they got every video game unit.
Come on, doctor.
Can't read on grade level, but they got a laptop.
Come on.
Can't read on grade level, but they got a cell phone.
What we doing?
Can't count on grade level, but guess what? They on every social media platform
What we doing?
known to man, and they're wasting tens of hundreds of hours on social media when they should be working on that math.
Come on.
They should be working on that reading. Black parents, make sure your house is not an incubator for the plantation system. Please make sure you're not birthing babies who are going to do nothing but go to jail. And if your son wants to be an athlete or an entertainer, I'm not going to take his dream from him, but he needs to have a backup plan in case he doesn't make it. Because contrary to popular belief, your child has a greater chance of being struck by lightning than becoming a professional athlete.
Yep.
Your child has a greater chance than being struck by lightning than becoming a multi-million-dollar recording artist. So we have to stop raising black children with fictitious dreams for their future. Because no matter how good of a rapper you are, no matter how good of an actor you are, no matter how good of a comedian you are, no matter how good of a dancer you are, at the end of the day, you still need a little bit of luck in order to get discovered and in order to make it big. But guess what? You don't need no luck if you want to be a doctor.
Right.
Just take the classes, pass the test,
Right.
and you a doctor.
Right.
You don't need no luck if you want to be a nurse.
Right.
Take the classes, pass the test, and you a nurse. You don't
it
need no
simple.
luck if you want to be an electrician,
Keep
if
it
you want to
simple.
be a carpenter, if you want to be a roofer or a welder.
Right.
All you have to do is take the classes, pass the exams, and now you are introduced into the profession.
Right.
There's no luck when
Right.
it comes to engaging in an academically based professional career.
Right.
Let's make sure our children understand that. And for many of you parents, if the child is not dedicated to going to college, don't make them go. All you're going to do is end up in student loan debt with a kid who doesn't even have a credential to show anything for it. Stick them in a trade school.
Right.
Find a trade school in Georgia.
Right.
Stick them in that electric program.
Right.
Stick them in that plumbing program. Stick them in that HVAC program.
Right.
Stick them in that auto repair program.
Right.
Stick them in that welding program.
Right.
I have electricians who make more money than doctors. I know HVAC techs who make more money than surgeons. I know roofers who make more money than engineers.
Right.
Let's stop feeding college to children who don't want to go to college. Give them trade school.
Right.
Give them real estate school.
Right.
Give them stock investment school.
Right.
There are other options
Right.
besides a four-year institution. With that being said, black parents, stop saying that they put my child in special ed. Nobody put your child anywhere. In order for me to special educate a child, you have to sign your name 4 times.
That's right.
You have to sign permission for the evaluation. You have to sign agreement with the evaluation. You have to sign the IEP, and you have to sign the special ed service agreement. That's 4 signatures. 4 signatures are necessary to special educate a child in the United States of America. Most of our children only need a tutor. They only need a tutor. They should have had a tutor or some along. But guess what? Football practice was more important than reading in your house. They should have had a tutor or some along. But guess what? Basketball practice was more important than mathematics in your house. You go ahead. Keep on putting sports in front of academics. And sooner or later, you will pay the consequences of that karma. Black parents, your most important job is to teach our children discipline. Your most important job is to teach our children discipline. And what is discipline? The ability to do what you don't want to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
I said the ability to do what you don't want to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
We have too many black children who do what they want to do when they feel like doing it. That is a recipe for failure, and that is a child who grew up in a home where the parents did not teach them discipline. You better know something. I don't care how smart your child is. I don't care how talented your child is. If they do not have discipline, they will not survive.
Right.
You better make sure your home is a temple where discipline is taught. And you cannot teach discipline without effective consequences and effective rewards. And to my parents of the preschool children, let me make something real clear to you. If you're raising a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, or a 5-year-old. It is not public school's job to teach your child how to spell their name.
Right.
It is not public school's job to teach your child their letters,
Right.
their numbers,
Right.
their sizes, and their shapes.
Right.
It is not the public school's job to teach your child how to sit still for 15 minutes or longer.
Right.
Too many black babies are showing up in kindergarten with no pre-academic experience or training from their parents. It is an embarrassment to the black community when a black child shows up in kindergarten having never had to sit still for 5 minutes in his life, never had to listen to nobody for 5 minutes of his life, never picked up a pencil or a crayon or a notebook or a Lego or nothing. Turn the damn music off, enough dancing.
Yeah.
Turn the TV off, enough cartoons.
Yeah.
Get them Legos out, get that Rubik's Cube out, get that coloring book out, get the crayons out, and make sure that child is writing and coloring and talking and reading. Your child can be reading by the age of 3. Some children can read by the age of 2. No reason why you should just be introduced to literacy in kindergarten. That's a shame. Which is why if I was in charge, if Dr. Umar was in charge, we wouldn't diagnose the children, we diagnose their parents.
What?
We wouldn't diagnose the children, we diagnose their home.
What?
We wouldn't diagnose the children, we would diagnose the communities, brothers and sisters. There's a movement now where they say in many states, based on the laws passed by the legislature, they don't want slavery taught in the classroom. They don't want racism taught in the classroom. They said that it injures the self-esteem of white children. Well, that's real interesting because for 400 years, nobody gave a damn about our self-esteem. Nobody gave a damn about how I felt. And now you want to protect the fragile images of white children so black children can't know the truth. But here's my position on that. Coming from a Marcus Garvey Pan-Africanist perspective.
Teach them yourself.
At the end of the day, it's not white people who should be teaching black kids what white people did to black people. It's black people's job to teach black children what white people did to black people. That's on us to do. That's on us to do. If the white man don't want to teach about what he did to us, we can teach it. If the white man don't want to teach racism, we can teach racism. If the white man don't want to give black children African history, why in the hell can't we give black children African history? We got churches on every corner. We got community centers. We got grassroots organizations. Why in the hell are our children still not being taught who they are? I'll tell you why. Because black folks, we talk a lot of conscious nonsense and we talk a lot of black rhetoric, but when it comes time to actually get your ass off YouTube and do some work, there's few of us out here in these streets doing the damn work. We want another podcast. We want another interview. We want another lecture. We want another book. We want another pamphlet. Well, guess what? If information can save black people would already be free. We got enough information. What we don't have is enough activism. We ain't got enough nationalism. We ain't got enough people who are pulling up their sleeves and doing the work. Brothers and sisters, the schools we need will not build themselves, nor will white people build them. The banks we need will not build themselves, nor will white people build them. The supermarkets we need will not build themselves, nor will white people build them. Whatever is to be done for black people, got to be done by black people. What you waiting for? What are you waiting for, Atlanta, Georgia? What are you waiting for? Yes, I support reparations. As Pan-Africanists, we gave birth to the reparations movement. This ain't nothing new, but guess what? Why are we waiting for a reparations check when we wasting $2 trillion every year? Somebody make it make sense. $30 billion on hair and weave, make it make sense. $4 billion on liquor and beer, make it make sense. $2 billion on Nikes and Air Jordans, make it make sense. $800 million on beef, chicken, turkey, and pork, make it make sense. We are entitled to reparations. But don't you use reparations as an excuse to sit on your backside and do nothing. There are African countries who have less than $2 trillion a year. There are South American countries who have less than $2 trillion a year. There are Caribbean nations who have less than $2 trillion a year. We are the richest group of African people in the world in terms of take-home pay. We got more education than any other African group in the world, and we got almost nothing to show for it. And you know why? Because slavery colonization did something to black people that we have still not dealt with, and it has robbed us, it has stripped us, it has taken from us the natural God-given desire to want to control your destiny, control your reality, control your world. That's why when you go around Atlanta, Chinese are building up, Arabs are building up, East Indians are building up, Anglo-Saxons are building up, Ukrainians are building up. And what are black people doing? Praying and waiting for Jesus to come do it for you. It is not Jesus' job to educate your children. It is not Jesus' job to feed your babies. It is not Jesus' job to educate our young folks, brothers and sisters. It's our job to do that. We keep waiting on God to come. When God is ready, God will come save black people. No, no, no. When God brought you into this world, you already had the weapons you needed for your liberation. But you're too lazy to use them and too scared of white people to do anything about it, brother.
Say it again.
That's the real problem. And now they transgenderizing our babies. Now they say that at 8 years old, it's okay for a child to know if a boy wants to be a girl. They say at 9 years old, it's okay for a girl to know if she wants to be a boy. That is complete and utter nonsense. It contradicts everything we were ever taught working on our doctorate degrees in psychology. Foundational psychology 101. Children don't know who they are. Children don't know what they want to be. Children don't know which way to go. So how all of a sudden in the 21st century they didn't scrap all their years of research, all their years of science, and now it's okay for a 9-year-old boy to decide he wants to be a girl? Why are they doing this? The global black depopulation agenda, brothers and sisters. I need you to wake up and understand why they're really pushing transgenderism on black children. You know why? Because if your son gets a sexual reassignment surgery and they take your son's testicles from your son, when he grows up and decides he wants to be a man again, he wants to have children, they cannot put the testicles back into your son's scrotum. If your daughter decides she wants to be a boy and they take the fallopian tubes out of your little girl, when she grows up and decides she wants to be a woman and she wants to have children, they can't put the fallopian tubes back into your child. This is nothing but castration. This is nothing but genocide. This is nothing but self-sterilization disguised as sexual freedom. Teach your children. God made you a boy, and God don't make no mistakes in his house. Teach your daughter. God made you a girl, and God didn't make no mistakes in his house. And we can all agree, whether you support the Rainbow Militia or not, we can all agree that no 5-year-old, no 6-year-old, no 7-year-old should be getting brainwashed and indoctrinated about same-sex relationships when they're not even old enough to have sex. Why are we letting that go on, brothers and sisters? Why are we letting that go on? A 5-year-old ain't thinking about sex. Why they teaching them about it? A 6-year-old ain't thinking about sex. Why they teaching them about it? A 7-year-old ain't thinking about sex. Why they teaching them about it? Because they got to brainwash the child, so by the time they get to puberty and they're able to engage in sex, they will only look for someone of the same gender. Why? To make sure no more black babies are being born. To make sure no more black babies are being born. I just heard that y'all had a situation in Atlanta a couple days ago where the doctor took the head off the baby while the baby was being born. First of all, my heart goes out to that family. Nobody should ever have to experience that type of trauma. But you know who I'm gonna blame for that more than the doctors? I'm gonna blame the black community. And the reason I'm going to blame the black community is we once owned and operated more than 500 hospitals in American history. Black people owned and operated more than 500 hospitals in only 400 years. That means we were building more than one hospital a year, brothers and sisters. What happened to the black hospitals we used to own? You know what happened? Integration happened. When the white man said you could come to the white hospital, we gave up the black hospitals and ran to the white hospital. And now black women have the highest infant mortality rate in the world. How can that be? How can the woman who's been having babies longer than everybody else in human existence, now she can't have babies without no complications? They're killing our babies in the womb. They're killing our mothers when they give birth to the babies. And black women, y'all gotta slow down on the epidural. Stop going to the hospital, stop taking the drugs to ease the pain. Find you a birthing center, find you a doula, find you a midwife.
Right.
We need to start having babies at home like we used to do.
Right.
Start having babies at home like we used to do. Because if you think these white people don't have a problem bringing another black person into this world, you are out of your mind, especially when half of America's states, 25 of 50, have more white people dying than white people being born. Isn't it amazing that white people have been trying to get rid of black people for all this time, and yet Mother Nature is getting rid of their asses? Isn't it amazing that every time they come up with a new scam to eliminate black life, Mother Nature smacks them and start eliminating their life? And black man, stay away from these damn snow bunnies. I don't want to see you with your snow bunnies. I don't want to see you with no red bunnies. I don't want to see you with no brown bunnies. And I don't want to see you with no yellow bunnies. If you can't find a black woman good enough to be with, then you no longer a black man your damn self. Black men need to be with black women. It is black family only. Enough of this interracial nonsense. Cut it out. There's more black women in the world than any other human group. If you can't find a sister in Atlanta, go get one from Columbus, Georgia. If you can't find a good sister in Columbus, go get her from Stone Mountain. If the Stone Mountain queens don't meet your taste, go to Savannah. If the Savannah queens don't work, go to Florida, go to South Carolina, go to Canada, go to Brazil, go to Jamaica. But find you a black woman. No excuse for a black man in the 21st century to be running around with a damn white woman. She's still a racist, still can't stand black folks, and she's only using you for a melanin injection or an economic come up. It's time to grow up, and it's time to stand up. Brothers and sisters, we are here today to celebrate the 136th solar return of the greatest human organizer of all time, the greatest Pan-Africanist in history, the greatest black leader of the 20th century, the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. In order to understand Garvey, in order to properly understand His Excellency, the prophet of Pan-Africanism and black leadership, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, you have to understand the Pan-Africanists who came before Marcus Garvey. Right here in Atlanta, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner is buried. Bishop Turner was Marcus Garvey before Marcus Garvey. This is the first black man to say God was a black man. This is one of the first blacks elected to state office during Reconstruction. This is the black man that called the red, white, and blue American flag a stinking dirty rag. Bishop Turner was one of the first black men to have to travel with full-time security because the Ku Klux Klan wanted to end his life. Bishop Turner was the first chaplain general in the United States military when he served in the Civil War. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that one of the reasons the most honorable Marcus Garvey was so successful in America, he could not do in Jamaica what he was able to do in America, because in America, black people were ready for Garvey's message. Because Bishop Turner prepared us. Alexander Crummell prepared us. Henry Highland Garnett prepared us. Edward Wilmot Blyden prepared us. John Brown Rushworth from Jamaica, the first black man with a college degree and the first publisher of a black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, John Brown Rushworth prepared us. So when Garvey gets to America, he didn't have to deal with all the light-skinned, dark-skinned schisms of Jamaica, because under American slavery and racism, you was black or you was white. They didn't have octoroons. They didn't have quadroons. They didn't have mulatto. You was either black or white. So black people's oppression was not as stratified and tribalized as Caribbean oppression was. And so the ground was right for Marcus Garvey to do his work. And so when Garvey founds the UNIA ACL in 1914 in Jamaica, he finally shows up in New York City in the spring of 2016. And when he comes to New York City, he comes to meet the great sage of Tuskegee, Booker T. Washington. But Booker T had just died before Garvey showed up. And Booker T doesn't get enough credit as a Pan-Africanist. Booker T organized the Tuskegee Conference on Africa in 1912 before Garvey's UNIA. Booker T. Washington was friends with Henry Sylvester Williams, who organized the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. Booker T was supposed to speak at the first conference, but he wasn't able to make it. But he still advocated and advertised and helped finance the first Pan-African conference. So Booker T. Washington, believe it or not, was also a Pan-Africanist. And so when Garvey gets here, Booker T is dead. Garvey undertakes a 38-state whirlwind tour to raise money to build a Booker T. Washington Tuskegee back home in Jamaica. But after the end of the 38-state tour, the Pan-Africanists in New York asked Mr. Garvey to stay in America. Don't go back to Jamaica. Build your movement right here. And so Garvey started to build. And when Garvey started to build up in New York, the coons came, the Negropeans came, the black politicians came, black pastors came, and they sabotaged the Garvey movement the first time. He tried it again. They sabotaged it a second time. He tried it again. They tried to turn the Garvey movement into a political club, into an intellectual masturbation tank, into a religion. And Garvey said, no, no, no. If you want to be Muslim, go pray in the mosque. Nothing wrong with Islam. You want to be a Christian, go pray in the church. Nothing wrong with Christianity. But the UNIA ACL will be about the business of nation building for black people. Not religion and prayer, but nation building and institution creation and infrastructure management. What we don't understand about Garvey is Marcus Garvey didn't bring us no religion. He didn't build us no church. Marcus Garvey built a government for African people in the diaspora so we can one day go back home to Africa and reclaim what is ours. Martin Delaney gave us the phrase, Africa for the Africans. Martin Delaney gave us the phrase, Africa for the Africans. But Marcus Garvey would take that from Martin Delaney and he would add to Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. And while Garvey was building in New York, two great black men, two great black leaders, A. Philip Randolph and Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, they began to grow jealous of Marcus Garvey's progress. W.E.B. Du Bois thought he should be the leader of black America. He felt that after Booker T. Washington died, it was his turn to lead because he had a doctorate from Harvard and he studied in Berlin and he was half white and half Asian and half Indian and half crazy. And so he felt he should be the leader of black folks. And as soon as W.E.B. Du Bois attempts to mount the mantle of leadership, Marcus Garvey gets off a banana boat from Jamaica and says, up, 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 you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will, and organizes more black people than any black organization you know of and more than most of the organizations put together. So then Garvey says, we have to build an international distribution network for black people. Garvey said it's not enough to raise money to build our institutions. We got to have a way to distribute. So in 1919, in the state of Delaware, Marcus Garvey incorporates the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation. Some people say, why did Garvey build Black Star Line? If he never tried to build Black Star Line, maybe he doesn't get charged with those trumped up charges from J. Edgar Hoover. Maybe he never goes to jail right here at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. Maybe he never gets deported to Jamaica. But what you need to understand about Marcus Garvey, he was a visionary, brothers and sisters. Marcus Garvey was trying to solve the problems of African people once and for all, from now until eternity. So when Marcus Garvey built the Black Star Line, the sole purpose of the Black Star Line was to take black people around the world so they could build and organize with other black people. The sole purpose of the Black Star Line was to transport goods of black people so we can sell our goods and trade our goods with black people around the world. Because guess what, brothers and sisters? 80% of everything you wear, 80% of everything you drive, 80% of everything you use, 80% of everything you eat still comes to you on a ship to this very day. Without a shipping company, black people will never be captains of our own economic destiny. The purpose of the Black Star Line was to make us the captains of our own destiny. But guess what? Jealousy sabotaged the Black Star Line. The FBI infiltrated Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line. Captain Joshua Cockburn was paid to sabotage the Garvey Black Star Line shipping company. Garvey didn't make no mistakes, unless having coons around is a mistake. In case not knowing who your enemies are is a mistake. Marcus Garvey's intentions were honorable, and he's the only leader we have had since to build a global national, international distribution company. We got all these black billionaires, but they ain't got no distribution. We got all these black billionaires, but they're not building no institutions. And don't get me wrong, I love my brother Tyler Perry to go from sleeping in your car to being a billionaire. I love my sister Oprah Winfrey to come from poverty to being a billionaire. I love my brother Sean Carter and Beyonce Knowles and Sean Puffy Combs and Kanye West and Rihanna and Bob Johnson and Michael Jordan. But what good is being a multi-billionaire if you can't use none of that money to build black power for black people? What good is it, brothers and sisters? Not one of them has given us an independent school. Not one of them have given us an independent hospital. Not one of them have given us an independent black bank. Not one of them have given us an independent distribution network or supermarket. How can you be a billionaire and you're not creating solutions for your people? Brothers and sisters, when we talk about Garvey, we talk about self-determination. When we talk about Garvey, we talk about self-determination. I got 15 minutes and I'm going to close. Marcus Garvey believed, as all Pan-Africanists believe, that our problems must be solved by ourselves. Yeah. The eternal weakness of the American Negro is that we will not use our black dollars to build black power. Yeah. We are the only race in this country who has not weaponized his money to benefit his political and economic agenda. Until you start using your black dollars, we will never have black power, brothers and sisters. You got to have black dollars in order to build black power. Chinese are outworking us because they organized. Arabs are outworking us because they organized. European Jews are outworking us because they organized. We got to work harder if we're going to catch up. We got to work smarter if we're going to catch up. We got to put more money into the pot if we're going to catch up. Shout out to my Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sisters. I'm happy to see that they built a bank, their own bank, first fraternity sorority to do it. But I'm proud of my sisters at the AKA. But guess what, my AKA sisters? Nobody can use that bank but y'all. So that becomes a problem because now you're practicing bourgeoisieism and elitism. I'm not saying y'all can't have your own bank, but now y'all gotta create a branch of your bank that the community can tap into so we can finance the institutions, programs, and services that we have. So I'm proud of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. But please, ladies, don't make this a bougie thing. Don't make this a cliquish thing. Don't make this an elitist thing. Call up your basilisks, call up your national presidents, call up the leaders of your sorority and say, okay, we've done this for us. What are we now going to do for our people? That's the next question that got to be asked. We got to stop being bougie. We got to stop being tribalistic. We got to stop fighting against one another. Brothers and sisters, we are at war right now. I just read that they got another COVID storm coming. They done cooked up 2 more COVID viruses that they're going to drop on the black community this coming fall. Get prepared. We got a food shortage coming up soon in black America. Get prepared. Do you got enough water? Do you got enough rice? Do you got enough beans? Do you know how to dispose of human waste? Do you have what you need for your baby? We're about to go through another white man-made, orchestrated, and engineered food shortage, brothers and sisters. Where is the food pantry in Atlanta for the black community? Where is the organized militia in Atlanta for the black community? Where is the committee to build the first black supermarket in Atlanta? Where is the committee to build an original organic black bank or credit union? We got to start having meetings. I'm tired of black people telling me, Dr. Umar, I'm not going to no more meetings because all Negroes do is talk. Well, guess what? The problem is not the meeting because you can't get organized unless you meet. You don't think the Chinese meet? You don't think the white man meet? You don't think the Arabs are meeting? You don't think the Latinos are meeting? Meeting is the essence of organization. The problem with black people is we allow certain Negroes' egos to dominate the meeting and disrupt the purpose of us coming together. So the meeting is not the problem. We got to make sure the meeting stays on track. The meeting stays on agenda. And so every time black people meet, you need to have 2 security guards. to throw out any Negro who think you're going to turn this meeting into a personal ego worshiping contest. Throw their asses out the meeting and let's get back to business. We can't afford to waste time. We can't afford to waste time. Black women, I need you to be careful because they sexually trafficking our black sisters like it's going out of tomorrow. And do you know what the #1 most sexually trafficked group in black America is? 14 to 17-year-old black girls. 14 to 17-year-old black girls. If you have a 14 to 17-year-old black girl, you better know wherever she is. Make sure she has a chaperone. If she got to work at night, somebody got to drop her off and somebody got to pick her up. And why they sexually trafficking black girls? 3 reasons. #1, for sex. #2, for organ harvesting and government research. Oh yes, most kidnappings are done by the government. I'm gonna say it again. Most kidnappings of black women are done by the U.S. government. Y'all remember the Atlanta child murders? Y'all know that black man in prison didn't do that by himself. He had government help doing that. And the 3rd reason they kidnapping black women is they're doing mitochondrial DNA research on the black woman. The black woman is the only woman with the Eve gene. The black woman is the only woman with the mitochondrial DNA. And because white people are dying off, the government is trying to find a way to isolate the mitochondrial DNA of the black woman so he can put it in the snow bunny so they can start having babies, brothers and sisters. They researching on our sisters. We gotta get organized. Brothers and sisters, we are living at a time where we got to get our act together, because if we don't do like the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said and come together and organize, we will be exterminated. We will be extinct. Our numbers are already smaller than the Latino. And our population of America is growing smaller every year. Not just abortion, not just black on black crime, but you got poor diet, poor medical care, the transgender agenda. All roads lead to the extermination of African people. And the reason they're able to take advantage of us so effectively and so thoroughly is because we are disorganized. Marcus Garvey said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. Right. Marcus Garvey said if the black man and woman are not careful, we will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and die from the effects of it. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Everything Marcus Garvey predict is coming to pass. Garvey said build your own political party. Garvey said build your own stores in economics. Garvey said educate your children yourself. Garvey said make sure your Jesus looks like you. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm disappointed because some of y'all still got a white Jesus hanging up in your house right now while you at the Garvey celebration. Don't you let no black child pray to a white God, a white Jesus. Not at all. God should look like us because we are God and we are godly. The black woman is the divine feminine representation of supreme consciousness. And the black man is the divine masculine representation of supreme consciousness. And I want you to stop calling the melanin in your skin color. This is not color. This is power. This is divine birthright. Our melanin connects us to God. We're the only people to have a direct connection to supreme consciousness. We are the chosen people. Being chosen ain't got a damn thing to do with nobody's religion. Being chosen is about being first. Being chosen is about being the oldest. Being chosen is about being the greatest. All black people, no matter what your religion is, are the chosen people of God. But we got to act like it, brothers and sisters. We got to manifest the divinity that God put into us. And let's stop acting like hypocrites. Out here acting like we so holy and spiritual, but black kids don't even have a school to go to. We so holy and spiritual, and we got hungry black elders living on the street. We so holy and so spiritual, and we can't even create jobs for black men and women coming out of prison. Don't tell me you holy and spiritual, and you ain't solving no problems for the global African family. Because somebody who's truly holy and truly spiritual would be about the business of African racial reconstruction, brothers and sisters. I want to close by saying this. 9 years ago, we started raising money for a school. Many of those donations came from right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I want to thank my Georgia family for standing by Dr. Umar for these 9 years. It wasn't easy. We finally purchased the school in 2019. And then we tried to renovate the school for the past 4 or 5 years, and we went through hell. I'm telling you, I know exactly what Marcus Garvey went through with the Black Star Line because I went through with FDMG. Every day I wake up, I turn on YouTube, some non-productive Negro peeing coon is making a video about me or the fundraiser who don't know me or nothing about the fundraiser. And so we went through this slander. Then some of these Negroes called the FBI on me. And then they called the governor of Delaware on me. They called the governor of Pennsylvania on me. They called the attorney general of Delaware on me. They called the mayor's office of Wilmington on me. Everything they could do to sabotage the work, they did it. And then we had to deal with the racism from the white power structure and them constantly trying to come in, confiscate the property, shut us down, not allow us to do the renovations. But I stayed adamant. I stayed focused. The ancestors stayed with me, and we kept on pushing, brothers and sisters. So 8 days ago, on August the 11th, we completed all the renovations of the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. Yes, indeed, we did it. We did it, brothers and sisters, with your help, because it is not my school, it is our school, brothers and sisters. And so, if all goes well, this Kwanzaa, December the 26th, the New Year's Day, we're going to have a community grand opening celebration for our donors and supporters. And I want my Georgia family to drive on up, or fly on up, or take the mega bus on up, or Amtrak on up to Wilmington, Delaware, and join in on the celebration. We don't know if we're going to do it 7 days. We don't know if we're going to do it 3 days. We don't know if we're going to do it 1 day, but we're going to do it. So right now, we have to wait on an HVAC inspection. We have to get our certificate of occupancy, and then we're going to have a paint day. So if any of you want to come on up to Wilmington, Delaware, we're only 20 minutes from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania International Airport, and help us paint the classrooms and the hallways and the offices and the libraries and things like that. You're welcome to come on up and be a part of the paint day. And if all goes well, we plan on opening up the school next summer, Marcus Garvey's birthday, August the 17th of 2024. And we will have second, third, and fourth grade, black boys. And then we will add a grade up and a grade down every year. So the second year will be first grade through fifth. And the third year will be kindergarten through sixth. And the fourth year will be pre-K through 7. And the fifth year will be daycare through 8th. And that gives us enough time to get the Honorable Frederick Douglass High School building up and running. So please continue to donate so we can keep the mission pushing, brothers and sisters. And once we're completely done with the Wilmington campus, I want to come and build FDMG Atlanta. I want FDMG Buckhead. I want FDMG College Park, FDMG Savannah, FDMG Columbus, FDMG Stone Mountain. Because it's not enough to build 2 schools in Delaware. We got to systematize it. If you don't systematize it, it's not a solution. And our people need solutions. We want FDMG Chicago, Detroit, Florida, and we're not going to leave our brothers in the diaspora out. I want FDMG Nigeria, FDMG Ethiopia, FDMG Paris, FDMG London, FDMG Brazil. Brothers and sisters, if you like to work at the school, send me your resume. FDMGresumes@gmail.com. If you want to volunteer at the school, please send me your resume for that as well. Don't ask yourself whether or not you're a certified teacher. Private school certifications are different from public school. The only question you need to ask yourself, do you have a skill, do you have a talent that black children need to learn in order to make it in this world? Maybe you know how to sew clothes. Maybe you know how to build websites. Maybe you know how to grow food. Maybe you know martial arts training. Maybe you know gun training. If you got a skill that our children can use, brothers and sisters, we would like to write you into the curriculum and into the program at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. We need teachers, we need secretaries, we need nurses, we need home and school people, we need security, we need bus drivers, we need grounds persons. We also looking at purchasing a farm right now in Wilmington, Delaware. So we have an FDMG farm because part of our program is agricultural science. And agronomical science, brothers and sisters. And if you are an expert at growing food, you've been growing your own crops for a while, send me a text message. Let's have a conversation. Maybe you could come on down and help kickstart the FDMG Farm and Agricultural Center. Brothers and sisters, as I wrap up, I want to give you my phone number in case you need to reach me. Take out your phone. Parents, if you ever have issues with your children, learning disabilities, emotional disturbance, autism, ADHD, IEP, psychological evaluation 504, any problem under the umbrella of education and mental health, I'm your school psychologist. Text me to schedule 215-989-9858. Some of you asked about podcast interviews, same thing, text me to schedule 215-989-9858. But I do want to say this. If your child has been classified as intellectually disabled, if your child has been deemed to be educably mentally retarded, I will review your child's evaluation at no cost. I do not charge a single penny to review the evaluation of a black child classified as intellectually disabled. And the reason I do not charge to look at that intellectually disabled evaluation is because it is the most stigmatizing label you could put on a black child, to call them retarded or intellectually disabled. So black parents, stop running around thinking your child is intellectually disabled. Let Dr. Umar take a look at that evaluation. And if we find out that your child was misdiagnosed, we're going to demand an independent educational evaluation. The school is going to owe you compensatory ed for the psychological damage caused to your child, and they also want to pay for him or her to go to an approved private school at public district expense. These are your rights, brothers and sisters. So feel free to call on me as we close out, on my message in celebrating Marcus Garvey. You know, I was at Marcus Garvey's grave the month before last, speaking in Jamaica. And then I had the occasion to visit the gravesite of Queen Mother Amy Jakes Garvey. And then I tried to go and find Mr. Garvey's first wife's graves, Queen Mother Amy Ashwood Garvey, and we couldn't find it. And when I travel across America to find the graves of some of our greatest African ancestors, you can't find them, or the grave is dirty, or the grave is unkept. Brothers and sisters, I need you to understand something. If we do not protect the shrines of our ancestors will not protect our lives. We have to be about the business of taking care of the graves of our greatest men and women. We also have to be about the business of calling on our ancestors, brothers and sisters. We need that invisible army with us. The white man names every building after one of his ancestors. The Chinese names all their projects after one of their ancestors. Black people have to stop being brainwashed and spooked by religion into believing venerating your ancestors is evil or the devil's work. It is not. Worshiping a white Jesus is the devil's work. Calling on your black ancestors is God's work, and we need to call on those ancestors. Also, if we're going to finish the work of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, which is building our own community infrastructure, as Marcus Garvey calls out to each and every one of us from the grave, in order to do that work, we have to heal the mental illnesses in the black community. We have black women walking around who were sexually abused and they never got any healing. We got black boys walking around, grown black men still struggling.